Coming up after this commercial, we, in honor of Memorial Day and to honor our veterans that give us the freedom to do a great show like this on KJS Channel 14, Saturday nights at 10 o'clock.
Sunday nights at 5.
And Sunday at 5. We went to the Fort Douglas Military Museum. A great piece. You had some fun with the guy there, and that'll be right after this break. See you in a minute.
Welcome back. Thanks for sticking around. Danny, both of us had the opportunity to go up to the Fort Douglas Military Museum and spend some time there and remember those that went before us in the military. But here's something about this place that I thought was really interesting, and let's go right into the second, because here's a little gym most people in Utah don't know about that we have right there at the Fort Douglas Military Museum.
I didn't even know it was there. That's good.
When we heard that the Fort Douglas Military Museum up at the University of Utah had just acquired for display the actual boots that Saddam Hussein was wearing when he was caught by the 2 Utah National Guardsmen, we knew we had to go up and check it out. Unfortunately, very few people in Utah even know that the Fort Douglas Military Museum even exists. And since we were already there, we decided to take a private tour of this incredible museum with curator Bob Voiles. Now, the purpose of the museum is to honor and preserve the history of Utahns, those who fought for our country and to preserve our freedoms. And I was completely blown away by the vast array of exhibits, stories, and artifacts, all the way back to the Civil War and to the present day.
Okay, this exhibit is a tribute to the Utah National Guard and their efforts both in Afghanistan and Iraq. As a result of our military intelligence guardsmen who were part of the team that tracked down the location of Saddam Hussein, they were able, after Saddam was captured, to actually go back to the site about 2 days later and retrieve some of his personal effects, of which, of course, we have the boots here, which is we're very proud of having those. The museum, as I indicated before, is part of the Utah National Guard, so we have an opportunity to actually show and display items that are brought back by our soldiers from Iraq and Afghanistan. And it's part of our mission is to really continue to preserve the proud tradition of the Utah National Guard. And this exhibit, I think, does that very well. These 2 soldiers were attached to a special team that was put on the trail of both Saddam and those on the cards of 52 that they had designated as the most important folks to try to track down. Here's the compound where they found him. See, they had got a tip that he was in this area somewhere, so they hit these places first, and then they ended up here where they finally found him. He was actually staying back in here, and when the troops come close, then he would run in here, go down into this hole, and then be laying across underneath, about 6 feet under.
Bob, I've heard that there's you have some ghosts in the closet? Is that what I'm hearing at the
Well,
museum?
this particular building was built in 1875 as a barracks, and we have a resident who never left. We figure his name is Clem. That's not his real name because that's been lost to history, but he's a Civil War period guy. He still haunts the halls, so we figure he's born about 1845. The previous curator has actually seen him a couple times, so he kind of knows what he looks like. Clem has a tendency to wander around, to walk across the floor where you're in the basement so you can hear footsteps, and even sometimes the previous curator he's peeked out around corners, and we've caught slight glimpses of him occasionally. We're still trying to keep track of him and find out why it is he just doesn't want to go home.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm standing in front of a painting by Fawcett. A particular scene depicts the Walker Indian War of about 1854. The Navajo Legion chased a band of Indians up into Spanish Fork Canyon. The painting itself is entitled, I believe, the first tank in Utah.
The first tank out of wood.
There you go.
That's really good. That worked for the first 3 people in the back.
Yeah.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. Okay, right now we're going to restricted area. It's actually open to the public, but this early in the morning it's restricted.
Area Fort Douglas.
This is area Fort Douglas. A lot of experimental. I made that up. Okay. Oh, kids, let me tell you, so this is what's going to be awesome with children.
Coolest. Look at
Love it. Have some tanks over here. Look at that.
And then behind it's the Huey. This is a German anti-tank gun. If you ever saw A Bridge Too Far,
Yeah.
any of you? When those British tanks are coming down the road and in the woods are the Germans with these things. This is a Japanese World War II howitzer here.
Tell me this, where does howitzer get its name from?
What you've got is you've got cannons for the general term. Then you've got howitzers and guns. A howitzer aims up and you can lob shells over the hills. A gun is high velocity and it's like what you see on a tank. It's high velocity and it just shoots straight, like
Okay.
to penetrate armor. But this is what you would use to, well, most artillery today is howitzers because you can call for fire and you can put the cannons behind the mountains and you can shoot over, and the forward observer is the guy up front that sees it. The gun crew seldom sees what they're shooting at. What we've got here is a Cobra attack helicopter. This kit was developed in response to Vietnam, and it was in action at the very last of Vietnam. It has since been replaced by the Apache, which is now being used. When you think of Vietnam, you think of the Huey, because the Huey really represents American involvement in Vietnam. And this is the workhorse. It's still being used in a lot of locations. This is a series of tanks that tells you kind of the progression, evolution.
This is the Sheridan reconnaissance tank, and this is used in World War
Vietnam.
This is used in the Vietnam War. So we have Bob here.
For example, the press getting it wrong. What can I say?
This right here is a Volvo. And then, Bob, what? It's not a Volvo? Bob, he makes up stories sometimes.
Yeah,
Been in the office too long.
It's got a bigger engine than your Volvo.
I feel lucky to have had the opportunity to check out the Fort Douglas Museum, and I highly recommend it to everyone to do the same. You won't regret it.
See?
It's cool.
I didn't even know that place was up there. It was totally cool to see all that stuff. And Michael, let me just say this.